We'll give it another minute or two. Let's let people trickle in. All right, let's get this party started.
Woohoo!
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, Horizon. Welcome, Prog team. Welcome, old faces and new. Here we are again at the start of another interesting and exciting season. We're back, and maybe most importantly of all, I'm back, bitches.
I
Hell
knew it was
yeah.
coming.
Yeah. We're so back.
Sindir's here. Sindir's queer, and Sindir's ready to fill you with fear.
Press X to doubt.
Huh?
Repeat that second one again?
Here,
You already know.
Yeah, yeah, we did.
so many of you know that I took a little break last season. The agony of responsibility was getting to me. My personal life was too busy to maintain things. And I did some casual raiding with another guild. I'm sorry, I cheated on you. I promise. We can make this work again. Now, that being said, I learned a lot playing with another team, and we, the officer corps, learned a lot running this ship without my guidance. First of all, for those of you who were here with us for most of this past season, you are very aware that we had some tumultuous times in the middle of the season. There was some fighting, some debates, there was spotty attendance. We managed to turn it around towards the end with thanks to a lot of hard work from you guys and a lot of hard work from Ellie and Pika and Nambers and Fixer behind the scenes trying to get this ship back on course. And I'd like to keep that momentum going forward. The number one thing that I found from playing with another team was that every single one of those people was working together the entire time. Every single person on that team had the same goal: kill that boss. There was no shit talk, there was no negativity. When somebody made a mistake, they owned up to it immediately. There was collaboration in raid, there was collaboration out of raid, there was problem solving discussions all the time. Every single one of those players wanted to get cutting edge, and every single one of those players deserved it when they got it. We can be like that. We can work together like that. If every single person puts in the time, puts in the effort, respects each other, we will get there. One other thing that we learned in my absence was that this is not a team that can be run by one person alone. It's not a team that can be run by two people alone. It's a big collaborative effort. We've delegated more tasks. We've split up the work behind the scenes, and we are actively looking for help in terms of talking to you guys about strategy and talking to you guys about a secret project we've been working on recently, which will come up later. I can't do it alone. So I need everybody on board with me if I'm sticking around here.
I don't like that if.
Let's not break it again, shall we?
Don't scare me away, team. All right. So with that big stupid pep talk out of the way, let's talk shop. What have we got on the agenda going forward? We've updated, as Pika mentioned in the announcement recently, we've updated the raid info channel, we've updated the requirements. Let's talk a little bit about that. The attendance channel in Discord is not optional. We're not asking you to let us know if you're available for raid nights. We are telling you. There is a zero tolerance policy for not answering the attendance spot. To be on this team, you need to be reachable by Discord. Obviously, things come up, emergencies happen, things change. Everybody's human, and a lot of us have a lot going on in our lives. We understand that. But if it happens too much, if it's happening all the time, if you're not answering that attendance spot, you cannot remain on this team because we can't plan around you being here. The attendance spot posts 3 days before each raid, and we will be closing it 24 hours before raid starts. So if you have not answered Monday night, Wednesday night, before Tuesday and Thursday raids, you are not going to be on the starting lineup when we're killing mythic bosses because we can't count on you being there or not. You just click a button. That's all you have to do. When you get pinged, you click a button.
Please respect everybody else's time. Like things like someone in your family's birthday coming up, you should know about that a year in advance. You know, like a lot of things can be scheduled around. As soon as you know something is coming up in your life, you can let us know that you're not going to be available that day. It's not super hard. It just requires a lot of communication.
And when things come up and like you have to last minute cancel or you're not able to tell us, you disappear for the day. Like, I get it, things happen, emergencies happen. I'm not going to fault you for that. But let us know as soon as you can, when you can. You don't have to tell us personal details, just, hey, something came up. And if it's a recurring thing, we're going to have to look at that. We just need consistent people who are available for the team to the best of your ability.
And it doesn't have to be just like them. I can also take messages. Any of us at the officer corps, we can all relay it to each other. So it doesn't have to just go through Cinder and Ellie because they already have a lot to manage on their own as is.
Well, ideally, it won't go to any of us in DMs unless you want to share like some personal things. Like all of this should be communicated in the attendance threads. Just, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it, or I'm going to be 30 minutes late. Like just a quick post in those attendance threads is all it takes.
Yep. If you look at the attendance channel right now, scroll up half a scroll, there is a thread underneath the Tuesday attendance where people are talking about whether they're going to make it or not. You don't have to share personal information with the whole raid team. You don't have to share personal information with us. Whatever you're comfortable with, but be communicative. Be transparent. We're counting on each other. Another requirement. Oh, sorry. One more thing you want to
similarly, this goes into being online in time for raid, being in Discord at 5 o'clock, not in Dornagal buying enchants at 5 o'clock. Right, invites go at 4:30. Those are early. Everybody should try to be logging in around 4:45. Around 4:50, we're going to start looking for you. We want to be pulling at 5 o'clock every day, especially since we've got that shorter raid week.
Yep. Try not to be late. If you're going to be late, let us know in the thread. We need to work around it. No shows make everybody gumpy. On another note, requirements-wise, the Mythic Plus requirement is returning. SKP was fun last season, but it had its own issues, and tracking it was a nightmare. And that's not how we want to do loot this season either. SKP is no more. Mythic Plus requirement is back. We'll be starting the first week because everybody's coming into it with Season 1 gear. We're hoping that it's entirely possible for everybody to get 4 sevens done in the first week. 7s give you gilded crests now. 7s give you hero track loot in your vault. If you can go higher, that's fantastic. If you do more than 4 keys, awesome. You go get him, Tiger. You're going to be performing great. The minimum requirement will be 4 keys at a +7 level. Starting from week 2 forward, we should be able to start blasting through those 10s with as long as you're paying attention, working together, being consistent. We'll be looking at a consistent requirement of doing 4 10s a week to get Mythic Vault slots, lots of gilded crests, keeping on top of all of our gearing needs.
To clarify real quick, as far as week 2 M plus requirement goes, we'll make a judgment based on the tuning. Right now, what's written in the raid info channel is 4 7s for the first 2 weeks and then 4 10s thereafter, but we might push that 4 10 up to week 2.
Yeah, my bad. But yes, starting with 7s, transitioning to 10s, the requirement to do 4 10s a week and keep getting those myth slot pieces. Indefinite. We'll cut it off when it's appropriate to cut it off. If you're somehow completely fully geared, then you'll be exempt. But you'll need to demonstrate some proof that you don't get a single thing out of Vault anymore. We're gonna be really pushing that key thing because it really just is the best way to gear people. And as a team, we should all be working together to make that happen. Let's get those key nights together. Let's post in looking for group.
Yeah. Sorry, just gonna
Go.
jump in again with some more on that. So one thing we're doing differently this season, we're not going to be pulling people's teeth to get their keys done. If you get your keys done, then you can be rostered at the same priority as everybody else. If you don't, then you have a lower priority for being rostered and for receiving the loot that week. And then we'll also be running Infernios and Plus Sundays at the start of the season until it makes sense to stop that. So there will be at least one dedicated time a week where you can try to pair up with some folks to knock some keys out. And as far as like enforcing that goes, we're going to maintain a really big roster. Like we're at 30 people in the roster right now. I hope to get that maintained even higher throughout the season. So if you're not doing your M plus, then it's going to be really easy to find somebody else that will do their M plus and get in the raid, right?
Yep. And on that note, we will be maintaining active recruitment the way we have been the last few months throughout the season, looking to keep that roster healthy, shoring up those gaps. Pika is devoting countless hours to scouring the internet looking for eager players who are a good fit for our team. And some of you are the result of that, some of you right here, and we love you. You're very welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thanks for coming.
We're going to keep that up. I love you all, but we need to make sure we've got as many people as we need to fill up that comp and make it the strongest team we can. On my screen, which I am sharing with the vast majority of you right now, is our early draft tentative roster based on your responses to the survey that was posted recently. A lot of familiar faces, a lot of new faces, a lot of old returning faces, a few players who are swapping classes or specs. We've got Ellie and me healing. We've got Pika on the dragon. We've got Mono playing Arms War. A little bit of shuffling going on. Most people doing what they know. If what you see here is not what you actually plan on playing next week in the raid, let us know literally before I go to bed tonight, please. Because we're kind of planning around this. I know a few people are also going to be gearing alts. That's awesome. Just make sure that your main doesn't slack as a result of it. In terms of having this gigantic roster and how we're going to cram that down to 20 players for Mythic, the general idea broadly is for progression fights that we do not have on farm, we are going to be bringing the strongest team we can. And for re-clear and farming, we'll be shuffling players around to give everybody a shot, get some gear, get some vault slots, see how your skill level is progressing. To start the season, we're not going into Mythic right away. We're not Liquid. We're not the early shift. We're going to take a little bit of time to gear up first through normal and heroic, but as soon as it seems viable to get those first couple bosses down, we will be going in there. I believe we may even still have some information on rostering decisions in the raid info channel. Is that correct, Ellie?
Yep, that's all up to date.
Fantastic. If you want more information on the decision-making process of how a Mythic roster gets built, check the FAQs in raid info. Raid info is your one-stop shop for Prog information. It's where the requirements are listed, including add-ons and weak auras. It's where boss strategies are going to be posted when I get around to drafting them. It's where the raid plans are going to be stored for quick reference. And if you have friends that are interested in joining the team, it's where our application's posted as well. Use raid info, love raid info, stare at raid info. Put raid info raid plans up on your second monitor during Mythic Prog fights. One other thing I just want to quickly draw attention to before we move on to complicated stuff is a while ago we opened a anonymous submission box. White screen flashbang in 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Oh my god, my eyes.
This is pinned in the Prog discussion channel. This is a anonymous Google form. You do not have to log in or provide any identifying information. There's a quick are you human check at the beginning, and afterwards you can submit feedback to the officer team. All the officers will be able to read this. We won't know who sent it. If you are having concerns, if a player made you uncomfortable, if you have feedback about our policies, if you want to grumble about what an asshole your raid leader is, type it into this box, hit submit, and we'll get pinged that somebody had something to say, and we will review it. That is pinned in Prog discussion. Just a little ways down is a link to this.
Yeah, and this is anonymized feedback. If you're comfortable just talking to us directly, please do that also.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's much better to have a conversation directly with a person, or even publicly if you want to just share and have a discussion. That's awesome. But if it's something that you want to share anonymously, quietly, if you're uncomfortable bringing attention to something, bringing attention to yourself, but you still want to say something, this is a place to do it. Just want people to be aware of it because it did not get used very heavily last season, and I think it really would have benefited. So with that, let's talk about loot. Loot is contentious. Everybody wants loot. Nobody wants to lose loot. Everybody has different opinions on how loot should be shuffled around. And you know what? Nobody wants to deal with figuring that out. Nobody wants to determine who's getting the loot. It's not fun. It takes forever. So we've been cooking something a little bit.
So I remember a long time ago when we were talking about loot saying something like, until we get to the point where we have tons of analysts figuring out exactly where the best piece of gear should be going to best improve like a specific spec or whatever, we're always going to have some downfalls in our loot distribution. Well, now we're the analysts.
So I'll let Ellie lead the details, but to quickly introduce the idea, the big impactful pieces that people actually care about, trinkets, unusually statted rings, weapons with cool effects. We're going to be breaking those down, looking in advance at what specs work best on, and presetting all of that for the whole season. For everything else, you know all those RC Loot Council buttons that confuse Pika every single raid night?
Damn it.
Those RC Loot Council buttons are no more.
There will still be RC Loot Council buttons, just not
Yes.
the buttons.
There will now be
No.
3 buttons. I need this for raid. I want this for something else. I don't want this. Need greed pass. Anything that we have not preset, trinkets are going to be preset, jewelry's probably preset, but a plate belt, a male off shoulder piece, need greed pass. Rolls are fun, right, guys? Get loot.
Yeah. So in practice, the way this will work is when something like a weapon or tier drops, you won't get a prompt to roll for that item because those items will already have been assigned, and we'll know where they're going before they drop. Right. So like looking at last season, for example, Clicky was always looking for that 2-hand mace off of Ulgrax. In this new system, we have a list published that says Ulgrax drops this weapon. Clicky is first in line to get it, right? So when that item drops, there's no need for us to roll it off because we already know it's going straight to Clicky. So a fewer number of rolls will be made in raid, but you should have a good idea of where loot is going to be going and when you can expect to receive any particular impactful piece. And we can have discussions about that outside of raid time if there's any questions about it or whatever.
This list of priorities of where pieces are most likely going first will be public. And if something looks wrong, we need to hear you say that and we need to talk about it and figure this stuff out in advance. The idea of this is if Spymaster's web drops, all the casters know where that Spymaster is going first. And if something gets tuned and Spymasters is terrible for Infernio and he no longer needs it, we need to know that before we give it to him. I'm about to pop onto your screen a very early work in progress version of this master loot spreadsheet that has been painstakingly, agonizingly worked on, led by Mono, with support from Ellie and Nambers.
It's getting there.
It's really getting there. We have a tab with a list of ideal items, contested items for each spec, and we have a master loot tab that's going to basically be showing who is this best on, who is this good on, who is this meh on for every single piece of gear that we care about studying in advance.
And I imagine probably the biggest question people might have when they see something like this is like, how are we determining what's actually best for whom, or like how do we determine that Spymasters is actually best for Infernio versus Cinder, like who's it better for between them. A lot of that is handled with like really in-depth sim work that a lot of the community is doing. So we're going to lean on a lot of um, a lot of the work the community is doing. Shouts to Blood Mallet and Ulria and all those folks. But the idea is, if you in a vacuum look at a piece of gear, say like a warrior has two-hand maces, right? If you sim with one of those and you sim with the other one, then you should have a clear indication of which of those two items is better for that player, right? Now, if you extrapolate from that and you do it for all specs and all items, and then you can compare those increases across specs. And so once we get to that stage, then that's where the priority list is generated from.
So this is the early cooking work. We don't have a lot of those numbers because the sims are not fully finalized across the board yet. Lots of changes to sims by all the genius class writers and testers. But that's sort of the idea. We'll be able to have this list of, okay, well, Frost Mage gets 200k DPS from this trinket, and Destrolock gets 150k DPS from this trinket. So Frost Mage should get the trinket first. And the idea is that these are the objective long-term goal pieces. These are pieces that you will equip and not replace for the whole season if it drops on Mythic. If it drops on Heroic, you equip it and you only replace it with the Mythic version. That kind of thing. This will not be taking into account the current gear. This will not be taking into account all of the keys that you've been spamming to get like the fourth best trinket. If that is the best trinket for your spec and your spec is the best user of that trinket, it doesn't matter what you have, that trinket should go to that spec. Long-term planning.
Which is to say, we're not going to require drop optimizers, at least for the start of the season anymore. But you should obviously still be running drop optimizers so you can know what you want to target in the short term.
One other note on the loot front is we're gonna put in a little bit of a BOE policy, at least to start with. We'll see how it goes, but we're broke. Guildbank's looking a little skimpy. And if you guys like having guild repairs for Prog raid nights, for those wipes on wipes and those thousands of gold, we need to do something about that.
Yeah, I had guild repairs off for most of the season, and I only turned it on in like the last month, and we spent 1 million gold just on Kaiveza and Brood Twister repairs in like 3 weeks. So we need big money.
So we'll be working on some fundraisers for the guild, and if you are willing to donate to the cause, it is so very welcomed. But one thing that we are going to be doing is when BOEs drop during raid times, we would like to sell that on your behalf and split the profits with you. Ellie is a fantastic auction house goblin and will get us a good deal on anything that drops. What's the ratio you were looking at?
Yeah, just 50-50, I think makes sense.
Yeah.
That for most of the BOEs that have been dropping, a lot of people have been sell them and split for the guild bank anyway, all last season, and it seems to work okay.
Yeah. So everybody benefits. If you don't get any BOEs the whole season, somebody will, and that money goes to help pay for your repairs. If you do get a BOE, then you don't have to worry about the work of finding somebody to buy it. Ellie will figure that out for you, and you'll make a pretty penny and help everybody with their guild repairs.
What if it's a piece you can use? Can you just keep it?
That's a good question. I think we should talk about that some more because, like, there are some situations where, like, at the end of the season, you'll want to be. There are some classes that will want to wear BOE all season, and there's some that would just have it for a short-term gain. If it's something that you would replace in a few weeks, I would probably sell it anyway, even if it's an immediate upgrade. But if it's one of those pieces that you would want to be wearing anyway for a couple months, then that's a different thing. But so not set in stone either way, but something we should talk about as a team.
Yeah, fantastic question. Good to bring that up. That sort of covers the majority of the things that I wanted to raise. Just generally speaking, we need to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and get back in it. Last season, we still managed to get 6 out of 8 mythic despite taking like a month off due to all of the roster shenanigans. So pat yourselves on the back for
2 months
that.
we didn't raid, yeah.
Like somehow we managed to scrape our way through all the way to the final 2 despite all that, which is a big sign of how far we've grown. Back in Shadowlands, this team wasn't even getting halfway through the raids. Dragonflight, we just about got CE a couple times, but we pulled up just shy. Having a rough first season here, we still got 6 out of 8. That is really good sign for the rest of this expansion. And this raid looks pretty cool, so I'd like to see the end of it. In order to get there, just remember we're a team. We're working together. Be respectful, be constructive. There's if you go and look at a CE team and a Hall of Fame team, like they're ribbing each other as friends. But there's no shit talk. There's no spite. It's a team effort. If somebody screws up, we address that. They know what they did. They try not to do it again. I make mistakes. You make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We all learn from them and we get better. And we get better as a team. We're going to work together in raid. We're going to work together out of raid. Key groups, study groups, log review.
Yeah, I will say that if you raided with us towards the end of the season, kind of that back and forth working through fights together is the idea that we're shooting for a lot more. So more input from you guys whenever you have it, whether it's in whispers to me or Cinder during raid or in Prog discussion. Like, this should be a collaborative process, and like Cinder alluded to, we were trying to kind of brute force it between the two of us, and it worked well enough, but not well enough to get us where we want to go. So um, the more effort we all put in, the easier this whole season will go.
Yeah. Yeah. One final thing, and I didn't flag this to Ellie, so sorry in advance, but I just want to acknowledge that these are stressful times across borders all over the world for a wide variety of reasons, and this video game is not a place to discuss politics. I don't want to hear it. The only thing I want to say is that being respectful is not a political topic. Be kind to one another, respect people's identities, respect them for who they are. If you're not willing to do that, the door's over there.
But also, it's going to be so much fun.
Yeah. So, with that out of the way, questions are open.
Well, with that, I will offer to take care of one cauldron on my own,
Yay!
but I
Hooray.
would rather do the flask one.
Done.
All right. Fantastic. We will work with Zara to do flask cauldrons for raid nights.
Meaning you don't need to give me math. I'll figure it out.
Ooh.
That's even better. Thank you, Zara. I appreciate that.
That's why I said flask, because there's a little bit less math.
Yeah, totally. If somebody is willing to put in the work for the potion cauldrons as we get to mythic, I'm going to continue not caring about potion cauldrons for normal and heroic. It's way too expensive.
Do
I'm
we have
working on swapping my Druido to potion.
do we have
Sweet.
someone that can make the vials though? Because that would help.
The gilded vials?
Yeah, because if you can make the 2 or 3 stars, I can make the. It helps with the needing less of the concentration.
I can make pretty
Yeah.
much anything. I can even make the potion cauldrons. Obviously, it just wouldn't be on the tune that I'm playing in raid.
Mm.
So whatever is needed, I can handle the logistics of any crafting. I have almost every profession maxed out.
Yeah, fantastic.
And I've got files maxed out, Zara, if you need them.
All right, so we'll sort out some details on the logistics of the cauldrons. And for anybody who doesn't know, if you're making crafted pieces, we have. If you're a profession wielder who can max out pieces, go to the Get Rolls channel and claim a profession role, and then in the crafting channel, people will ping, and you will get lovely commissions to craft people's gear for them, and everybody will thank you and praise your voices and names for songs forever. Had a question come in. Is the loot list taking into account mythic roster building for loot distribution?
Yeah,
In
I asked
terms,
for a clarification, and they said, is loot being taken into consideration for mythic team building? I'm still not sure that I fully understand.
I think I kind of have an idea what they're saying is like if we're killing, say, first and second bosses, and there are people that are like high priority on those items, would they get essentially a priority in the rostering? If I'm guessing correctly.
On farm, yes.
Oh yeah,
or
that obviously makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
for initial prog, we just want to get those bosses killed and get that loot efficiently until we're comfortable and easily clearing them. So we will be fielding the strongest possible team for each boss. Reclears will be trying to make the loot make sense. We'll be trying to get people practiced and showing off their stuff and showing off improvement. If you were benched on prog because your throughput, or let's say you're benched on the 4th boss prog because your DPS wasn't as good as the other players of your class, or you were dying to a mechanic more often, that's not like your one shot for the season. We'll be bringing you back in. If you're on the roster, we trust that you have the capability to get there.
Yeah, I think this is especially important with us planning on keeping a larger roster than usual. Obviously, like, we want to bring people that want to be here. So if you're sat on a fight for whatever reason, whether it's performance based or we want to get some trials in or whatever, like, come hungry, like, come ready to raid, be in the channel ready to fill in case somebody DCs. Like, this, it should be a place where people are like clamoring to get into the raid, right? Like, that's, I don't want it to be a situation where I'm having to convince people to come raid, or not that it has been, but you know,
No,
don't make
definitely
us
not.
chase you down. Be ready to go. Come to play.
I do have one question. I was afraid to ask it.
Well,
Okay.
if you don't want to ask it, you can type it anonymously, but people will probably figure out who it is now, so go for it.
So let's say there's an item that's good for a specific spec, and there's 3 people that play that spec. How do you choose which one gets it first? Is it randomized?
/roll.
No, meaning like in your file when you say like this goes to him
Yeah.
first and this person second, and how do
Yeah.
you?
So So our sorting is purely based on spec. So if we have like 3 ret pallies, they're all equal priority for an item. When it drops in raid, those 3 players will just roll for it.
Again, we're trying not to incentivize people to weaken their gear to make their drop optimizer look better. We're not trying to make it punishing for people who do tons and tons of keys and get really high gear and then, oh, well, this upgrade isn't as good for you as it is for the other paladins, so they should just get it. The predetermined gear is for this is the piece you want to equip forever. All right, cool. It's yours then. Regardless of what you already had. And there's going to be situations like this is made up out of my butt, but say trinket from the second boss, which yeah, a trinket from the second boss is the second best trinket for one person, but it's the best trinket for another person. But for the person who it's second best for, it's still like a huge DPS upgrade.
Mhm.
We would prioritize the person who would never replace that trinket versus the person who will replace it 5 bosses from now. If you can't get anything better, it should probably be yours, is the idea. I hear a resounding silence. If you have questions, you are free to ask during the meeting, after the meeting, in chat, in DMs if you're uncomfortable, in the submission box if you're really uncomfortable. We will address everything that we see in that submission box. If there's a question in the submission box, we'll answer it publicly. If there's a complaint, we will try to address it as best we can in whatever way is most appropriate. But
The other
there's
things,
yeah.
one more. I guess we haven't said it this season officially yet, since it's a brand new season. But make sure you have Discord notifications turned on for Prog announcements, Prog discussion, and attendance channel.
Prog discussion?
No,
No, people meme in there all the time.
you don't want to miss your teammates' memes, in my opinion.
Make sure that you have at least role pings enabled for that channel. But have all notifications on for attendance and Prog announcements. You need to be aware of those posts every single time. And I cannot stress this enough. Please, please answer the attendance spot. When you get the ping, either answer it or mark it unread and answer it later. Like, just please, 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 please. So speaking of that, the attendance spot post went out for Thursday. Thursday this week is going to be our strategy classroom. It'll be a quick sort of watch party and strat review for the bosses that had PTR testing. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about what we're expecting from the final boss. I'm expecting there to be 0 people unknown on that attendance post, custom Thursday, February 27th. Set your status, whether you're going to be present or not. It's good practice for the real raid. Look at all those names pop up out of unknown. I love you guys. Fantastic. Keep at it. It'll be at our standard raid time. We'll get together. We're going to watch some PTR clears, talk about what the bosses do, and just sort of workshop some basic initial strategies before we see what the good teams do and disregard all of it and copy what they do. That's the plan for Thursday. Next week, we're in this for real. Ellie, do you think we're gonna do cheeky LFR splits like we did this past couple seasons?
Yep. Yeah, so those will queue in at 4:45. So if you can't make it, that's fine. We should hopefully be getting into normal at 5:00 anyway.
There are, I believe, 2 tier pieces coming out of the first wing of LFR, which is open right out the gate next week. So If you can make it early, log in. We'll create our groups. We will steal loot from pugs and distribute it amongst ourselves.
All right, Mindrat, you should be able to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
So my question is more of like, you guys developed the list, right, with tons of research you guys have been doing. That's the predetermined loot list.
Mhm.
Obviously, you guys have more of a core team in mind already for Mythic, right? Like
Nope.
your core players have been around more often. No.
Nope.
Okay, so that
Whatever.
my question was more framed towards that. Like, are you guys accounting for that on that loot list already? But that clarifies it a lot.
Yeah, no. Anybody on the roster can be brought in for any fight.
Okay.
Given how they're performing, right? So
Right.
we are avoiding having like a quote core roster inside of our roster, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and so like there's no loot preference for seniority or anything like that.
Okay, I thought that's how you guys were approaching it, but okay, that clarifies a lot. Thanks.
Whoever is performing best will be brought for prog fights. And we will continue testing and retesting you guys to figure that out as much as we can.
Did you settle in if you wanted an eye level requirement or like what people should be doing this week and next week in advance of the raid?
Right. That's a good point. We're really, really hoping that everybody, even people who are bringing new characters, can feasibly get at least 6:30 for opening day. Most mains that have been played all season are I630s, 637, 639. I think it's possible to be 640 if you don't have any crafted pieces. But
Yeah, Zero, what's your eye level?
He's probably already 700. Yeah, if you're taking a character that you did not spend the whole season gearing through mythic level content, if you can get it to 6:30 through the new quest drops and world drops and shit like that, awesome. Upgrading is not enabled this week because all the last season stuff is gone and there's only basic Valor Stones and Crests for the new season.
Can I say something real quick?
Please do.
You can do the pinnacle caches to get some new pieces that go to 645. Very much recommend them if you don't have very great gear. It will bump you up a little bit. And
Yeah.
the new crafted pieces are 626, I think. Like the weathered ones.
Okay, so I was just gonna ask. So we can craft bear stuff with no crests up to 626.
So it's the remember the non-spark weathered stuff?
Yeah,
was
sorry,
590?
without sparks. I mean, yeah.
Yes. There will be a small cap, but weathered crests will never determine your gearing choices. You can kind of just send them where you want, and you'll have no impact otherwise, or no downside.
Yeah.
So in theory, a brand new tune can have every slot at 626 plus their Cersei's ring.
Not quite.
What, 650?
There is a weathered crest cap. It's so you can only craft a few pieces first week. But you can certainly shore up your gaps and you can get world content drops and veteran and God forbid some random explorer pieces. I think explorer is in the 620s this season.
Okay, yeah. In that case, 630 seems super attainable.
Yeah. If you don't think you're going to be able to achieve that on your character by Tuesday, let us know and we'll take a look and see what's going on, see what we can do.
And when is the Cersei ring upgradable again?
It's not.
It's not going to be, right? Like that's...
Yeah, this is it.
I thought it was going to like 670 something for some reason.
Nope. No, they wanted it capped out mid-heroic.
Yeah, I think the idea is it gets replaced by mythic level stuff eventually.
That's not true for some classes anyway, I guess.
Yeah, for the moment. If for some reason you don't have a maxed Cersei's circlet, go grab that this week too. It's still good for now.
Can you max it this week?
Yeah, you can. The catch-up mechanic of brand new character should be able to max it within a few hours. a little bit of a pain in the butt, but it can be done.
I have a question.
Please.
When the roster adjustments are coming out for like who is going to be on the like prog bosses, will the people that are not on the prog bosses be given like log information or any sort of like notes that had been maybe taken about why they were not receiving their spot for said week or said boss?
I'm not going to promise that.
Yeah.
If we notice that somebody is sort of falling behind, I would like to make sure that they know what they can do better. There is sort of a actual like grunt work requirement in getting that done, but that is a goal, is to make sure like if you are regularly not being selected on the mythic roster for performance reasons or death reasons or whatever, it should be clear that like you should know either from the DPS meters or attendance reasons, or you didn't do the keys this week. It should be clear. And if it's not extremely excruciating clear, we'll try to communicate that to the best of our abilities. We are a small and mighty team, and we're doing our best.
That said, the easiest way to get that information, if you're wondering about it, is to ask. Like if you're not being brought in for some reason and you're not sure why, or even if you are sure why, post in prog discussion asking for a log review. Obviously, we're trying to do a lot of log review and proactively, but if you feel like you're struggling, we will very likely also know that you're struggling, but maybe not have time to prioritize you compared to other areas of the raid that are struggling that we need to focus on. So if you speak up and be like, hey, I need help, then we will literally drop everything and help you.
That's the attitude we're looking for, is people who want to do their best. If you're putting in time outside of raid night to try to improve your play to make us a better team, I love you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else changing?
If anybody really wants to heal, let me know.
I might reach out to you on that, Cinder.
You're
All
banned.
right, I'll add a Zenio tally to my Zenio tally counter.
I would like to touch on community rate for just like a half a second, if that's okay.
Can you hold that till the end?
Sure.
Cool, thanks. Anything else Prog team related or new season stuff? Anybody has questions on?
I mean, I got questions for Blizzard and what the fuck they were thinking, but that's neither here nor there.
Down, mage, down.
Yeah. So based on the stuff that we've been talking about today, is anybody like, fuck this, I don't want to raid anymore? Or is anybody like, fuck yeah, this season sounds like it's going to be very good?
Andrew, put your
What-
hand down.
Whoa, rude.
Yeah, if like anybody's really concerned about any of the things we've said, we want to hear it. We want to know if something's troubling you. We're hoping that this is a good thing for the team across the board, but again, like we're sort of coming up with ideas and throwing them at you guys.
Yep. And if you think of something later, like, hey, what was the, maybe we should have this be the N plus requirement later or something like that, then you can bring it up and we'll talk about it.
All right. So with that, I will touch on what Walls was going to bring up very quickly, and you can expand on it if you like. For those who don't know, we also run a community raid Monday night and Wednesday night, and it's basically open to all with much more lower and casual requirements. If you want to practice the fights or bring in your alts, it's literally open to everybody. And the more the merrier, the more people who are around, and the more skilled people who are around, the more fun everybody has, generally speaking. Fixer is the lead on community raid matters with support from Zenyo and Walls.
Now's a good time, Walls.
Oh, no, that pretty much covers most of everything I was gonna say. The only other thing I would say is, yeah, no, that's it. That's all I can think of.
All right.
Sign up for the community raid on the calendars if you want to go, so that they have an easier time playing.
Yeah, community raid does rely pretty heavily on the in-game calendar signups to figure out if they have enough healers and tanks.
Oh, one thing I would say is that Fixer did put out a post earlier today that goes over all of the requirements for community raid and what we're trying to achieve over there and the whatnot. If you're interested in community raid, please take a read. It should answer any questions you might have. If not, reach out to one of us and we will help you as to the best of that we can.
Yeah, that's over in the regular announcements channel. It was the annoying at everyone thing you got earlier.
Annoying.
Hehe. All right. Ellie, cut me off mid-sentence if you think otherwise, but I think that wraps up our Prog meeting for season 2. Welcome.
You off. We're mid-sentence. To those asking,
Classic.
yes, you can delete Narabar Palace weak auras as well as the Northern Sky packs and all of that. We're going in with no pack again until a pack seems necessary.
Clean your weak auras. Lua errors are the U killer.
Update your add-ons.
LVI pushed their update, the first one for the season. Make sure if you're an LVI user, you're not running around naked.
Don't just
God, it
update.
was so scary walking around and seeing just a little black dot on the bottom. I was like, "Where's my bars?"
Don't just update once. Check your add-ons every day for the next couple of weeks. Add-ons are going to be updated very frequently.
Yeah,
I think
Bear posted in Guild that if you're having issues with bartender, you have to go in to the
Cinder, I have a quick question.
in there manually and change
How
it.
much is the sub for Zenyo's Cine Toes on OnlyFans?
What?
Pango.
I don't know what you're talking about.
How dare you?
Pango.
What's up?
Do you have people muted in Discord?
Yes, he does.
No.
Confirm. You should double check. As a reminder, muting people in Discord is banned in the Prog team.
Muted? No.
Nevertheless,
what have you?
make sure that we're aware when each other is speaking, and muting in-game is absolutely banned as well. If you have a problem with someone else on the team communicating in a negative way to you, let us know. We do have a zero tolerance policy for that.
All right, now, how much was it for Zenny's feed picks?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. I don't have anything else going on.
All right. And Fixer, who I will not ask to speak verbally, has kindly recorded this, so you can all listen to it again, or for the lovely folks who literally just joined in the middle of that sentence, you can catch up on what you missed. But that is our season 2 meeting. Same time in 2 days for the Strat Classroom. Shouldn't take too long, but we'll go as deep dive as we want to.